Good morning, everyone. It's Natalie Alicia Gold with the Gold Standard, and I am so happy today to be with my dear friend, Anjie Vichayanonda, and I'll just call her Anjie V. Is that cool, Anjie?
That's perfect. I tell everybody to just call me Anjie V.
And I love the clap back to Gary V, our favorite. So I want to tell you guys a little bit about Anjie. She is an intellectual property attorney turned entrepreneur. She's currently the CEO and founder of Leg Up Legal, a social impact startup that provides a mentoring mobile app and curriculum to connect prospective law students with attorney mentors and teach them how to forge their first professional relationship. So Anjie,
Yes.
from lawyer to tech entrepreneur. Why?
Yeah, I basically had been mentoring people all throughout my career. I found a very influential mentor before I went to law school who taught me more about the legal profession and how to walk the walk and talk the talk and what the actual practice of law was like. And I just found that that was so instrumental in my career. And so I realized that people really need that mentorship as early as possible. If you can give it to them before law school, even better. And when we thought about building a platform to allow pre-law students to get mentors, I realized really quickly I couldn't keep practicing and build the platform at the same time. So I decided to really dedicate my heart into it 100% and save up my money, take off from the legal profession for a little bit while we were building the platform, creating the mentoring curriculum. And then the thought was, maybe I'll go back to practice, maybe I'll stay an entrepreneur, but so far, it's been 2 years and I've been being an entrepreneur full time. And I do a little bit of contract work on the side just to stay fresh in the legal world, but I love being an entrepreneur. I think it allows me to really use all of my creative skills and use everything that I've learned throughout my career. My life before law school was actually working in advertising. So I started off in graphic design and then I moved into the account management side. And I've really found that being an entrepreneur allows me to use all the skills I've learned in my life up to now, whether it has to do with advertising, marketing, graphic design, or even substantive legal skills, drafting my own contracts and creating my own operating agreement and filing my own LLC. All of these things are skills that I've developed over time, and it was super helpful in launching my own business. So.
What I love is a story that you told me recently about you would have the amount of money that your financial advisor told you you would need to start this venture taped to your computer screen at work, and you're like, just another 1,000, so I just love that story. Can you tell our viewers about it?
Absolutely. So when I thought about creating a business, I realized I needed to save up a certain amount of money, give myself some runway. And being a lawyer is one of the professions that allows you to make the kind of money that you would need to eventually build your own business or even your own practice or whatever you want. But I realized that I needed to set goals for myself. So I talked to a financial planner. I asked her, okay, this is what I want to do. I need about 2 years worth of runway to give myself time to really just pour my heart into this. So how much money do I need to be able to pay my mortgage, pay my student loans, be able to incubate a business and really get this off the ground? And she gave me a figure. And at first it was like a gut shot to my stomach. I was like, I'm never going to be able to make this amount of money. But around the same time, it was like Providence shined down on me about a few weeks later after I met with this financial advisor. The legal industry had a huge round of raises. They called them the Milbank raises. Your salary went up and your bonus went up. And it became a reality that if I really maximized my billable hours and put my nose to the grindstone, that I could really make the kind of money that I needed to be able to leave the practice within about a year and a half. And so I worked my little tail off.
You don't remember anything about that year and a half.
Yeah, I took that figure that she gave me, I put it on top of my computer screen, as you said, and I just built my little butt off until I made that figure. And it was, and I wouldn't say that I felt like the entire time that I really felt like my heart was in one place and that, the law practice was no longer what I was looking for. Like, I would say, I mean, I love the practice of trademark and copyright law. I could nerd out on it all day. I realize that there is a need in our industry that's not being served. And it's this providing mentorship to people at an early stage. And I just felt like if I stayed in the legal profession, the best I could do is mentor 1, 2, 3 people maybe at a time. I mean, when you're billing 2,000 hours a year, you just cannot, spend your time on much else. And so, and I just felt like that wasn't good enough. I couldn't impact enough people. I couldn't help enough people. And so I really wanted to pour my heart into my practice so that I could also enable myself to go serve all these other people. And I mean, I loved billing. Like I loved the actual subject matter I was working on. So I don't think it was as
Anjie, I think
awful.
you're the first person to ever say I love billing.
I don't think it was as awful as people, might think. Like, yeah, okay, there are times that you get just plain exhausted. But I also, when you're really involved in the subject matter, when you really like the subject matter, it's not all that bad. So I'd have to say, yeah, I didn't like putting up with the big law politics. I didn't like putting up with kind of all the things that go along with the administrative stuff of practice. But overall, I loved the practice. And it did enable me to get the financial resources that I needed to build my ultimate baby, Leg Up Legal. So I'm very, very thankful.
What's
for being
amazing
able to
is
have it.
you truly were able to identify this is not necessarily the end. This is a step necessary to move in the direction I want to go. And now, Anjie, for you, what are the biggest lessons that you are learning working with these students and connecting them to these legal mentors?
Oh gosh, so many. And so many that I felt like I learned along the way in my own journey. But then when you hear other people going through it, there's so many extra facets of it. I had to apply to law school myself. I had to find my own mentors. I had to forge all of those relationships for myself. But when you're going through it, you don't really absorb everything that's happening to you. And when I was working with these pre-law students and seeing how many different journeys everybody has, that's when it dawned on me that you really can't have like a one size fits all mentoring curriculum. And I think that's what we learned from the very start, is that we set out to build like a weekly plan for these people, all of the mentees. But that didn't really work for everyone because everybody's at a different phase in their career. And so instead, what we decided to do was we created a curriculum that has different objectives, and they can pick their own objectives. It's like choose your own adventure. And then once you pick your own objectives, you can work with your mentors. But what we realized was so many people have a hard time even identifying where to begin. Like, how do I work with a mentor when I don't even know what I need? I don't know what I don't know. And so what we learned is that you have to help people diagnose, what are you missing? What do you not understand about the
How do you do
profession?
that?
So in our mentoring curriculum, we have self-guided objectives, and then we have mentoring objectives. So you go through at least 5 self-guided objectives first that help you diagnose, like, how much do I know about the profession? What practice areas am I interested in? Do I even know what practice areas am I interested in? Should I go on like a career exploration journey? Or do I 100% know what practice area I'm in? Now I just need to connect with practitioners. So we help you kind of wrestle with that. And then we also ask you in those first 5 objectives to identify your own values. You'd be amazed how many people haven't actually sat down to think about, what do I actually want for my own life? How do I want to live it?
No one
And
thinks about it.
exactly, what values do I want to live out? Like, I mean, I think it took me so long to figure out what was really important to me in my life. And I think the earlier that you can take some time for yourself to do that, the better. And so we really ask a lot of those questions in our mentoring curriculum. Why do you do what you do? Why do you want to go to law school? What kind of life do you want to live for yourself? And we make them think about all of those things before they engage in the mentoring program, because it's better for you to clarify some of those things and visions for yourself so that you can identify who's the right mentor to work with. You want to have a mentor where your values are aligned.
And do you even truly want to be a lawyer? I mean, you know,
Exactly.
you're doing
Exactly.
unbelievable service for these people, because a lot of people are like, well, I'll go to law school. Okay, that would be nice if it was like 3 years of chilling and, but you're
Hardly.
going in for 200K. Forget the amount of work.
Exactly. Yeah, and to be honest, a lot of the people who reach out to us to inquire about the mentoring program are parents of college students who are asking, like, should my kid do this? And I tell them, like, well, think about this as your insurance policy to making sure that your child is dedicated enough to finish and go to law school and know what is facing them. I think that a lot of it is this the big question mark, a big unknown, and they don't really understand what they're getting into, so they can't really commit to that. Because, like, I think until you've actually sat down and spoken with a lawyer about their own career path, it's all very amorphous to you. You could spend hours doing internet research and still have no idea what it really means to be a lawyer.
Right. Well,
And
what's
so,
front we're facing on the website and what does a lawyer actually do? They're very
yeah,
different things. And Angie,
totally.
too, to your point, we see lawyers as suits. We think it's, in the old days, Perry Mason.
Yeah,
And
Law and Order. Like
yeah,
that's what I hear over and over and over again.
right.
It's like people have such a very, very small window into our world before going to law school. And I always tell people, don't be intimidated by that. There is absolutely no reason why you should have had a lot of exposure to the legal profession before law school. I mean, if you've had a lot of run-ins with the law before law school, I'd be concerned. So, like, I mean, you
Right.
don't want that. But the fact is you still need to put into the work to start to get to know what this world is about. So it's just like anything else. If you were going to go be an engineer, you should go talk to engineers. If you're going to go be a doctor, you should go talk to
And
some
go sit in
doctors.
the law, like seriously, sit in the court. I mean,
Yeah.
not in today's COVID world, but like see what kind of cases are actually getting tried. And
But you can observe live streams of court right now. I mean, like, it's
absolutely.
not like in this current time frame they don't have opportunities to connect with lawyers. I think right now what we've seen in our business is that people are more willing now than ever to connect virtually, and it's much more convenient for lawyers. It's way easier for the lawyer to jump on Zoom for 30 minutes out of their day rather than having to go drive to a destination, meet you up for coffee, spend time with you, drive back. I mean, I think it's a lot easier for us to take just a few minutes out of our day to talk to people. And right now, when so many people are feeling socially isolated, they're more willing to do it. They're more willing to pick up the phone and mentor somebody and say yes. And I think that that's why we've seen such an interest in our mentoring program increase, because our mentoring program is completely 100% virtual. So we have a mobile app. You download the mobile app, you meet with your mentee on video chat once a month, and it's kind of like Zoom. You have a video chat portion in the app, and you just click on their name and boom, a video chat window opens up, and that's how you get your mentoring. You don't have to go meet somebody in somewhere. And it also opens up our mentors and mentees to be able to meet with people from tons of different geographic locations. You don't have to be in the same geographic place. And that's really important because you might be a college student who's attending college in Texas, but you might want to actually practice in New York City. And maybe you want to talk to some lawyers in New York City to see what that's like to practice there.
Angie,
And
what
so,
percentage would you say of the lawyers on the platform are actually being authentic as to what their day to day is? Or are you finding that it's like, yeah, it's great to be in the practice of law? Like, do you think we're getting real with these?
oh God, yeah. Actually, that's how I vet mentors. So when I start talking to mentors, I mean, I tell them, this is not about sugarcoating our profession. My job is not to funnel these students into law school. If they go through our mentoring program and they decide law school is not for them, congratulations. You've saved
That's a
yourself
win,
3 years of your life
right?
and hundreds of thousands of dollars. Like, that's no sweat. That doesn't bother me in the least. If you decide that this is not for you, that's good. That's a good solution.
I love Knowing what
end
you
result.
don't like is so important.
Yeah, and I mean, connecting with these lawyers allows them to see what it's really like. And I don't tell the lawyers to, try to convince them to go to law school. That's not what we're doing. We want to show you what is our life really like. We want you to get lots of different perspectives from lots of different lawyers and let you decide for yourself, is this right for me? But until you can really see what the life is like, you can't make that decision. You can't decide like, yes, this is right for me. I mean, I have students who come to me who are like, I know I want to go to law school. I'm like, but how do you know? Because they're like, I know I've wanted to be a lawyer since I was 5. And I'm like, but no, you don't. Like, you really don't. Until you really talk to lawyers and see what that life is like. I mean, most college students can't fathom billing 2,200 hours a year. They just can't. And so like it's
I
really,
can't. That's why I started my own firm at 24 years old, Angie. Are you kidding me? To be chained to a desk like that?
exactly. And I think it's super important for them to talk to people. And just there's so many practical things that I wish I would have known when I went to law school. I didn't realize there's such a huge monetary gap between lawyers. I mean, if you're a first year district attorney, you're making $48,000 a year. If you're a first year big law associate, you're making $190,000 a year. That is insanity. Like, so, I mean, all these people who go to law school and they tell me like, oh, I want to go to law school to make money. I'm like, okay, well, you better know that there's a huge spectrum there.
And that
Like,
determines which law schools, what
yes,
percentage of the
yes.
class.
And there's a very, very small percentage that makes $190,000 a year. I mean, just tiny percentage. And everybody
And what are
goes to law
you, like,
school.
you have to earn every dollar that you make.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
And
don't think they're
beyond.
giving that to you magnanimously. Like,
What
the
people
law firm
don't
is,
understand is
yeah.
if the firm is paying you 190,000 and they have to pay for your benefits, blah blah blah, you're costing the firm about $300,000.
Yeah.
So you're making the firm 3, 4, 5, 6 times that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, first year associate might be billed out at $210 an hour or something like that. I mean, it's like your time is expensive and you don't realize that because you're not seeing the bills. But trust me, your clients are paying lots of money to the firms for you. And you're costing a lot of money at the beginning because that training time
You know
takes
nothing. You come
forever.
out of law school knowing nothing.
Absolutely, absolutely. Law school does not teach you how to practice law. And I know that sounds ludicrous to most people who have not talked to lawyers, but it just doesn't. It's very inadequate at teaching you how to practice law. I mean, for example, I went through, I was focused in trademarks when I went to law school. Already knew I wanted to practice trademarks when I was in law school. Took trademark classes, I took trademark registration classes, I took all sorts of stuff at my law school. But not every law school has those options. There are some law schools that only have one trademark class, and it's a doctrinal class, so it's theory.
Right.
And you might go through your entire 3 years of law school thinking you want to practice trademark law, and yet you've never even visited the US Patent and Trademark Office website. And that's like where you would live as a practitioner. So like that's where we go to file all our applications, to file opposition and cancellation proceedings, to do everything that we need to do related to trademark prosecution. And so it's amazing to me that there are so many people who go to law school thinking like, this is going to prepare me to practice. Because trust me, you show up on your first day ready to practice law and you realize right away how very little you know. Because your boss comes into your office and
Right.
he gives you an assignment and he's like, Angie, go do this. And you're like, okay. He walks out of the office and you're like, what in the hell did he just say to me?
No idea.
No idea.
Angie, I don't know if you're aware, but recently last week, so today we're taping, it's September 4th, and a week ago, Arizona put out that they're completely changing the law, and now non-lawyers and lawyers can split fees.
Really?
Yes, the change that's happening in our legal profession is happening so rapidly, and there's a similar kind of law in Utah that's happening as well. So I think, is this knowledge that your mentees would be like, okay, well, maybe I should partner with a lawyer right now instead of going to law school. I mean, you speak to an extraordinary amount of people who are thinking of going to law school. So
Yeah.
I'm asking you, if you could get inside their heads with this knowledge that this new law is out there, what do you think these students will be saying to that?
I think students are interested in any career paths related to the law that could possibly help them avoid spending 3 years of their life and hundreds of thousands of dollars on law school. Like, for example, I talk to a lot of students who are engineers. They're thinking about going back to law school to practice patent law. And I'm like, but you can be a patent agent right now, right? You can go take the patent bar, you can go be a patent agent and work for a lawyer right now, and you might be able to make decent money and not have to spend 3 years of your life on law school. And I think that's very analogous to that. I mean, there's opportunities now in those states where you can work with lawyers for lawyers doing substantive legal work, or doing something for a legal business. Maybe it's legal tech or whatever it is, and you can partner with lawyers, and you'll still be able to make a decent amount of money without having to go invest hundreds of thousands of dollars in law school. I mean, people don't realize, like, you're digging yourself into a deep hole when you go to law school, and you need to be able to get out of that hole in your
And
first couple
nothing
years
can
of practice.
eradicate it, not bankruptcy, not
No, it can't be discharged in bankruptcy. No. So yeah, and that's one of the biggest things that I talk to students about. Our mentoring program is more focused on showing people how to get to know more about the practice. But I'm a career coach, and I talk to a lot of the students about, like, the application process and the financial commitment that you're making, and whether or not this is something you really want to do. And we talk about that. Is this going to be worth it for you? If you're telling me that you want to go be a district attorney, you better go to a law school where you're not getting into a lot of debt.
that costs nothing.
Yes.
Angie, are you advising people, like, for instance, if someone comes to you with a 150 LSAT score,
Hmm.
their options, they might get into schools, they'll get into schools, but it'll cost a lot of money for basically kind of a mediocre school. Let's call a spade a spade.
Yeah.
So my biggest advice when people ask me is ace that LSAT.
Yeah. But that being said, there are people that are not going to listen. I mean, I tell people that all the time. I'm like, listen, these people that graduate from the top 14 law schools with really good scholarships, it's because they reapplied over and over and over again. Like, they took the LSAT, they took it again, they took it 3-4 times, and then they got the score that they needed, and maybe they had to apply in several different cycles. You may get into schools the first time that you apply, but that's not like the end of the story. You should really think about whether or not, okay, did you apply early enough in the cycle? Could you raise up your LSAT score? Should you maybe try again next cycle? Because you might be able to defer your admission offers from this cycle, see if you can do better next round. And it's only 1 year that you have to wait. Well, really, it's like 9 months that you have to wait, because the next cycle comes up so fast. And it's 9 more months where you might be saving yourself literally hundreds of thousands of dollars. I mean, so think about it. Like, don't just go to law school because you don't know what else to do. Like, I mean, once you pull that trigger on law school, you've pulled it. Like, there is no going back. You cannot do any redos, do-overs, like, no. So once you
Angie,
pull that
what
trigger.
you said was profound, because now as 31-year-old me, I'm saying, duh, of course you wait the 9 months to save the hundreds of thousands. As
Yeah.
a 21-year-old me, or 20 when I was applying for law school, I was like on a fast track of, like, it has to be fast because I graduate college in 2 years. I have to keep going fast. And I feel that, I never really thought about it before, but when you're making this decision, you're too young. You don't understand the ramifications of what will happen down the road.
So young. And it's true. I always hear that. My students never want to hear you should wait. They never want to hear it. They're like, I've got to get in. I've got to get in right now. I've got to go. And I'm like, but why? And they're like, got to keep up my momentum. I'm like, momentum for what? As soon as you get into law school, it's going to hit you like a train. Like, you don't have any momentum. And I'm like, okay, like, think about this. And if you don't really understand what being a lawyer is, you have no business applying to law school. It is not just an academic exercise. I know too many students who they had 2 years worth of college credits while they were in high school. They get through college super quick. They're just focused on
Talking about me, Angie, come on.
they're focused on achieving, and they're not thinking about, I'm about to go sign up myself for a career where I'm going to do this for 40 years of my life. Like that's what law school actually is. It's a gateway to a career that you're supposed to do for 40 years of your life. So if you don't understand what that career looks like, you have no business applying to law school. I know that is not what people want to hear, but it's true. And so like you need to take time for yourself. Now, I'm not saying that anybody who's super young can't be prepared to go to law school. You totally can, but you should take your time while you're in undergrad to really get to know what that decision means. And that means talking to lawyers, joining a mentorship program, working for a lawyer, going to do fellowship programs, doing things that are going to give you exposure into what that's like, so you actually understand what you're committing to when you sign on the dotted line and you turn over all that money and time.
So, Angie, you can have it your way and restructure the way in which students go to law school and become lawyers. What would be your perfect paradigm?
Oh my gosh, I've thought about this so much. First of all, I would totally change the LSAT. I mean, I know there's lots of written material about why the LSAT is supposed to be a good indicator of how you'll do in law school, and it's supposed to be a good vetting process, but it's just not. Because the fact of the matter is right now, the way that our gateway works is you could go take the LSAT, go to law school, take the bar exam, go through all of that for 3-4 years of your life and still have no idea what it actually means to practice law. Right. So that's crazy. Like, imagine if a doctor went to medical school and got out the other side without knowing how to practice medicine. We'd be all terrified. Like, that's insanity. I mean, there's at least like a residency program and all these other things that force doctors to learn what they need to know in order to treat you. And that's what I would do for the legal profession. I would find a way that we could, find a test that would test whether people or not have the right business skills, the right social skills, the right intellectual skills.
We only have 5% of people, maybe less, who actually go through law school.
Yeah.
Most people do not have any of those skills. So in my opinion, it's the colleges who have to start like teaching those real life skills.
Yeah, I mean, but still there should be some assessment at the beginning that makes sure that you have them before you get in. And then law school should also teach those skills. I mean, they should teach you how to financially run your practice, because there's so many lawyers that run their practice into the ground because they don't know the money side. They don't understand the business side. You could be the best at writing briefs. You could be the best oral argument, but if you don't know how to run a business, your law practice will not survive.
And here's the thing too, I think an interview process could be really beneficial, because what I noticed in law school, and I was super young and super like ambitious and like would be raising my hand and they'd be like, anybody but Miss Alicia, like literally. Right?
You were a gunner? You were one of those people?
But interestingly, my first semester, I got straight B's and B pluses. And I'm like, WTF? I'm the one like every day, and I know this stuff. And how is like John got the A? I've never heard him speak.
But here's the ludicrous thing is straight B's and B pluses. That's like a solid first semester. No, I mean, like, seriously, like, I mean, I know so many people, we were always like the most high achieving people in our classes. And then you get your first C, your first semester in law school, and you're like questioning your whole existence.
Like the anxiety and self-deprecating. I mean, oh my God.
I got my first C ever in my entire life in my first semester in law school in legal writing. And I literally thought about dropping out. I mean, I was like, I'm never going to come back from this. Legal writing is the most important skill for a lawyer. I don't belong here. I mean, that's literally what I felt. And luckily I had wonderful law school professors that talked me down off that ledge. They were like, there's plenty of people who don't get it after first semester. You will survive this. You just need to catch up. And I did. They made me do this, and this is crazy. They made me do this remedial writing program. I did not get to go home for Christmas break. I had to spend the entire Christmas break basically rewriting a memo, and I was miserable. I was crying like every day because I didn't want to be there. But I caught up, and the second semester I made an A+ in legal writing, and they never saw that kind of improvement. And so they asked me to come back and TA for people who were like me, who didn't get it first semester.
That's an amazing story.
Second semester, they get it, and so I went on, TA'd for legal writing. I won best brief in a national moot court competition. I mean, like, you can come back from these things, but it's a huge gut shot to your stomach and your ego the first time you get
all overachievers going to law school. It's not, the kids who are floating and cruising by. These are people who are A's and A+ their whole life.
Yeah, I mean, law school, like, they literally put you in this competitive piranha tank, and then they shake up the tank. they're like, all right, let's see what happens.
You against each other, and your scholarships are going to be lost as a result of your ranking. Good luck. Yeah. Make friends.
Yeah, exactly. And make friends with the people you're all competing against. But it's this wild experience, and I just think so many people are unprepared for that experience. And our goal is really to help people, really understand not just what the practice is about, but what that experience will be about. I think the challenge is many of the mentors that are in our program are experienced practitioners. They've been out of law school 20-something years. And so they can tell you a lot about what their practice is like now. They can't really tell you a lot about what the application process is like now and what law schools are like now, because they've changed a whole ton. But if you are in our mentoring program, we have tons of programming that goes along with it that helps you get all those extra pieces. So I think the most important thing that I would tell somebody thinking about going to law school is there's two things you should be focused on. There's definitely the academic track, right? You have to focus on getting into law school, making sure your GPA is good, getting a good LSAT score. Definitely that track. Then there's career exploration, figuring out what being a lawyer is all about and whether or not you actually want to be a lawyer. And this piece will continue with you throughout law school. And so it's not like a linear thing. Both of those things are going at the same time, but you should not ignore the career exploration part. Too many people ignore that part. So I think I would tell them, like, hey, like, you need to make sure that you're equally putting attention on both sides, because if you do a bunch of career exploration and figure out, like, oh crap, I don't actually want to be a lawyer, then the academic stuff goes out the window. That doesn't even matter. So, like, you have got to put in the time to do the career exploration piece.
Now I want to pivot a little bit, and I want to talk to you about, if you could give our viewers the biggest piece of advice about becoming a tech founder, what would it be?
So I am not a tech person. And that was really hard because I had to get over the idea, like, I'm only one thing. I think that is the biggest hurdle when you're an entrepreneur. At first, when you become a lawyer, you define yourself as being a lawyer. Everything about your identity becomes wrapped up in being a lawyer. And then the most mature lawyers eventually break out of that cycle, and they're like, oh yeah, this doesn't define me. I'm many other things, and I can be many other things. And it's like that when you become an entrepreneur. You have to completely break out of that mindset. You can no longer say this is not part of my job description, because once you're an entrepreneur, it's all part of your job description. 100%. Hate to tell you, but you're now the marketing person, the accounting person, the CEO. You're now a gazillion things. So if you are not a tech person and you want to go build a tech company, you better find some people who work for you or can help you navigate the tech side. So in order to launch our platform, what we did is we went and partnered with a white label mentoring platform. So they already have a mentoring platform product, and we were able to just throw our logos and our program and our curriculum on top of it. But the point of doing that was to get off the ground as fast as possible. When you're a tech entrepreneur, your goal is to get that product out there in whatever minimum viable product
MVP.
form. Yes, whatever minimal form that you can get it out there. You're always going to be ashamed of it. You're always going to be like, the first product we put out was terrible. But the point is, you put it out there in the world. You get as much feedback as possible. You take that feedback, you rework everything, and you end up tearing it all apart several different times. But you've got to get it out into the world. You cannot focus on perfection. You have to find a way. And you cannot take the excuse, I'm not a tech person, so we're just not going to build a tech product. No. Everything is tech enabled these days. It has to be tech enabled. I knew that going into it. If we wanted to be able to connect mentors in New York with students in Texas, we needed a tech product that did that. We could not just be like, oh yeah, let's do this all over the phone and email. No, that's not going to work. And that's not what your customers are going to prefer. They're going to want a product that is, put together enough that it's usable and it doesn't break, but they don't need it to be perfect. So my advice is go out, find somebody who can help you with the tech stuff if you're not a tech person, get your product out there as fast as humanly possible in whatever form that you can, and then, make tweaks along the way. Don't spend 2 years in development creating what you think is the most perfect, brilliant product, because the fact is you might put it out there and nobody wants it. So get it out there.
But it is the truth.
Get it out there as fast as possible. See what people actually like about it. The things that people liked about our program were not the things that we thought originally they were going to love about our program. But then the things that we thought were like the most high value are not necessarily the things that your customers think are the most high value. So you need to make sure that you get it out there as fast as possible and you figure out what they think is the most important thing about your product. And then you focus on developing those things. So that's my advice.
And you just gave us all an amazing motivational, really it's just do it. Go for it, iterate, reiterate, and make it happen. Anjie, as always, it's been a pleasure to be with you. And you have just given us such pearls. Thank you for your time.
I've loved chatting with you, Natalie. Thank you.
Talk soon.